Welcome to Her Brains, His Looks Real Estate and Lifestyle podcast. This episode features the BlackRock section of Bridgeport and is hosted by two of the smartest and most attractive realtors in the business. Well, at least according to their mothers. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the brains of the operation, Erika Portanova Songa, and the looks, George E. O'Connell.
All right, that is quite an introduction.
I love it. I think it's perfect for us.
All right, so this is Her Brains, His Looks. I am George E. O'Connell.
And you are the
Looks.
And I am Erika Portanova Songer, and I am the
Brains.
Yes, in case anyone didn't know that, just to be clear.
Just to be clear.
Our identified roles. So we're excited about this, our first podcast. First of many, we hope. The format of our podcast we're going to select a different town each podcast, talk about the information statistically of the town, real estate wise, talk about the places to go to visit, the cool events they have on a regular basis, the hot spots, if you will. And then we hope to have guest speakers. So anybody wants to join us, we'd love to have you, industry, of course.
And don't forget the industry focus or the industry guests.
Right.
Today we're doing an industry focus.
Which is going to be home inspections. Good information to know buying or selling. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And and then we'll do calendar picks of what's going on in the area. And we'll have our favorite go-to two places we select in the area to talk about in detail. So anyway, we hope you enjoy it. We're excited about this, and I think we're ready to start.
Yeah, I think the best way to start is kind of describe, what is BlackRock and what happens around BlackRock, and kind of the areas that make BlackRock unique. For instance, St. Mary's by the Sea, that's probably one of the most popular. It's actually a city park. It's right along the water. It goes between Ash Creek and Black Rock Harbor. That's where you can see everybody walking, biking, running.
Incredibly scenic. It's gorgeous. Yep.
Yeah,
very full on summer days. A lot of people.
And the houses on the seawall are pretty incredible. We'll be featuring one of the houses on the seawall a little bit later in the podcast. Also a part of BlackRock, you can't forget about Captain's Cove Seaport. It's something that the Williams family has created back in the 80s. At Captain's Cove, you got anything from fishing trips on the Middle Bank. They have boardwalk shops.
Oh, the shops are great. Ice cream shops, little jewelry. I mean, they're all cute little kiosk type shops. They have live music on the weekends in the summer.
At the bar and the restaurant.
Yep. It's a lot of fun. It's great to be outside. I mean, you're outdoors, you're eating, you're dancing, doing whatever. It's nice.
Yeah, and new as of last year was escape rooms. So that's that's pretty cool.
Did you try that yet?
I have not tried that one yet. I've only done one escape room and I couldn't escape. I was stuck. I just got out last week.
And that's because I'm the brains in this operation. So that kind of makes a lot of sense.
You were not in the room with me.
Clearly not to help.
I was stuck.
Yep.
The other features in BlackRock is a lot of social clubs, heritage clubs. There's Fairweather Yacht Club, BlackRock Yacht Club, the SS Norden Club, which is the
Swedish singing club. That's my heritage. I kind of appreciate that. Thank you.
The Cuban Club on the Avenue. There's a few more, but those are the highlighted clubs.
In Fairweather, you were a Commodore, right? Past Commodore at the Fairweather Yacht Club?
I was.
Yeah. And we've had a bunch of parties there for the Greater Fairfield Board of Realtors. We have our annual Christmas party there, and they do a great job.
You've been there for a while, right?
Probably been there 3-4 years now in a row, I think.
And probably in a row. Yeah, you guys at least 5 years. I would say.
No, it's a great place to have parties and entertain, and good cooking there, thanks to Ozzy's too. So,
yeah, along the avenue is a ton of cool restaurants. You have anything from seafood, raw bar. You have
Hub and Spoke. You got the
Blind Rhino. It's a great sports bar. That's relatively new. Soul Food now at the Birdman.
That's on my list to go to, by the way. I've been trying to go.
And obviously the one that's been there probably the longest, Taco Loco. Miguel and his family run. Awesome joint there.
Yeah, That's been around for a long time.
Now, a little insider info there is the Seabright Beach. It's Little Beach, also known. It's right next to the SS Norden Club. It's probably 100 feet wide.
Can anybody go there? Do you have to be a resident?
There is resident-only parking there, but
I'll
no
check
one
that out.
really monitors who goes there.
Maybe you could get me there. I want to get there. Take your car.
That's a nifty little spot.
Nice.
But there is yearly events in Black Rock. Every year they have Black Rock Day is probably the
and they
one
have
that everyone knows about.
Great 5K race too for that, don't they?
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
a 5K race in the morning. They have a kids walk that kind of kicks off right before that, followed by the infamous bed races.
Oh, I've heard about these. Can you please describe to our fabulous listeners what a bed race would look like?
Well, that'd be like a 4-poster bed on wheels. Someone will be lying in the bed.
That's required, right? Somebody has to be.
It has to be in the bed.
Okay. Hopefully
Usually
the
they're
light
wearing a
person.
helmet for a reason. And then you have a team pushing you,
Oh my gosh.
and the team who completes the course the fastest is the winner of the bed race.
But no alcohol, right?
No, that
No.
all. When you end up at the field after the 5K, the kids and the bed races, you end up at Ellsworth Field, and on the field they have bands, they have food trucks, they have a beer truck and
Nice.
wine. So it's one of the great events that usually happens in June. Now celebrating, I think it'll be its 6th year
Yeah, and this year it'll be let's see, June 13th.
will be the Black Rock Day.
Yep, Black Rock Day, 8:45 for the kids and 9 a.m. for the 5K start.
And Porch Fest is probably it is on its 5th year, I would think. Last year they had 60 plus bands
That's
on
incredible.
neighbors' porches. It lasts from 1 p.m. The last band kicks off at 7, kind of ends the event. Insane. You walk between houses, listen to as many bands as you can.
So who are these bands? Are they people that sort of are starting out themselves? Are they
A lot
I'm
of
imagining
the
amateur type of bands or
some houses have more, not as seasoned
okay.
band professionals, but a lot of local bands, the Alpaca Gnomes is kind of a
Yep.
favorite in Black Rock. They always draw an awesome crowd for whatever porch they play.
Nice.
But that is going to be August 29th this year.
Okay. At 1:00 start.
1:00 it goes, and the last band goes off at 7. So every hour pretty much has a
Yeah.
new set of bands. And then there's the farmers market,
Oh,
which
I
is
love the farmers market.
yeah, that's always a town favorite. It is Saturdays starting in June, and it runs through October. That is next to the field, next to St. Anne's.
Yep, St. Anne's Church. So every town we're going to see and we'll find has a farmer's market. It's become really popular. So those are great, right? Typically you have homegrown, you have organic vegetables, plus they have all the other things they sell, crafts and music and whatever.
Kids,
fun.
ice cream cones. They
Good
do
stuff,
the face painting, the clowns, balloon animals kind of thing.
Yeah, nice.
And the last highlighted thing that Black Rock offers is the Black Rock Concert Series. So from June through August, also in the field next to St. Anne's on Tuesdays from 6 to 8 p.m., they have a variety of bands through the summer. That again is well
attended, I'm sure.
well attended. And you can always check the Black Rock Community Council website, blackrockcc.org for those bands, or blackrockct.com for any of the events, the Black Rock Day, the Porch Fest.
They have a lot to do, a lot of outdoor events, which is nice.
Yeah, so that's those are the things that make Black Rock kind of unique, and
Fun and neighborhoody.
neighborhoody, hip.
Yeah, so it's if you those have not ever been, of course you need to check it out. A lot of times, just to be clear, Black Rock is a section of Bridgeport. It is actually in the city of Bridgeport, but it's a part of the Bridgeport town in this area of Connecticut, Fairfield County. They have a lot. We're very market area driven or section driven. So a lot of areas of towns are named for, what section they are, and they represent a little differently the lifestyles and within that. So
Absolutely.
something to keep note of. All right. So the good real estate statistics we have here for you. George has spoken about the fun and all these social. I'm going to talk about some stats here.
We'll get back to the fun and social.
Oh yeah, fun is coming later.
Yeah.
Taking a break.
We have to crunch some numbers here
Yeah.
and tell you about
It's
the
important.
real estate market.
We have to educate you. We've got to do our job here. So we're talking about closed sales the last 3 years in BlackRock, again, specifically BlackRock. And we're going to focus just on single family homes, frankly, just to keep it a little bit of a cleaner plate as far as statistically the stats go. So back in 2017, we had 36 homes that sold. Back in 2018, we had 33 homes that sold. And in 2019, we had 51 homes that sold. Again, focusing on single family homes only. So there's a nice movement of inventory here, which is what we like. It reflects a good economy. And if you were to look at a map, I think George has a slide. Yeah, there you go. So you can see a lot of it's down what we call by the water, by the St. Mary's side of it. So Route 130 or Post Road kind of delineates BlackRock. It's
Fairfield Ave, yeah.
Right, Fairfield Ave, thank you. And so, we consider sort of St. Mary's side is everything, to the water side, or was it east, west? I don't do directions.
To the, south, side of the avenue.
George is a sailor. He'll tell you directions. All right. So average sale prices, which is always interesting because every town is so unique in how they and where they stand as far as their values for homes. So in 2017, the average sale price was $297,000. Now remember, we had 36 houses that sold that year. 2018, the average sale price a little bit higher, $372,000, and that had 33 homes that sold. 2019 average sale price went down, believe it or not, $339,000, but we had a lot more homes that sold. We had 51 homes that sold. So
a lot more competition.
A lot more competition drove the sale price down. It happens.
It happens.
It happens. But supply and demand, right? Econ 101. Which I did so well.
Which he loves to talk about. Econ 101.
I love it because I did so well in college. No, it was not my strength. Okay, so a lot of people ask. We'll find when we're about to list a house, as you know, we're both realtors, of course, actively working. When we're going to list a house, they're going to ask us, well, what do you think it'll sell for? Because you usually list it at one number and it sells for a different number. And that common question is the average percentage of the last list price. And we say last because you may start out with an original list price.
And then it might decrease.
It may reduce, be adjusted by, a certain number, and then maybe adjusted 3-4 times. I mean, you see list prices start at, X number and come down 3-4 times so they actually close or trade that house. So, for example, in 2017, remember 36 homes sold, we had 94% sold at their list price ratio. So they sold within 94% of the last list price.
Got it.
Yeah. Good. 2018, a little better percentage there. 98% sold within their last list price. And then in 2019, we had 96% sold within that last list price. So, that's the common, and we see that a lot is typical in the norm, if you will. We see roughly 95 to 97, 98%.
I think the 95 number seems to be kind of the middle ground right there. And the infamous square foot price.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We
don't
talk about that too much.
Yeah. 2018, it did come in at $197 a square foot. And in 2019, it came in at $174 a square foot.
So it's a common question we get asked a lot. I find it's, I don't know, someone read a Forbes article one day and decided to ask this question when they're looking for homes, what's the price per square foot, for sale and or sold, right? Depending on what they're looking at comps wise. And I personally, as me, can't speak for the other side of this team here, I don't usually gauge that.
That'll be the look side.
That'll be the look side. Yeah, the brains here, I don't usually use it as I don't weigh heavily on that statistic to gauge, comparatively, because we're so neighborhood driven in this area that to me that weighs more. So, but it is a stat. It is a line item on an appraisal report. So it is important to look at. But again, I don't weigh too heavily on that.
Clients seem to ask about the square,
it's important
price per
clients,
square foot, whether buyer or seller.
Yeah, no, I agree. So BlackRock, what they have totaled in volume of sales. This is always kind of a fun number because it's always such a big number. 2017, remember we had 36 homes that sold. The total volume of closed sales, 10.7 million. 2018, a little bit higher, but less homes sold. So 33 homes sold, but 12.3 million. And 2019, more homes sold, 51 homes, and it was $17.3 million in closed sales. So there is money to be spent in Black Rock. We have some good houses here. So
I mean, if you consider the jump between 33 and 51,
yep.
I guess that really makes up for the almost 5 million.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's a good, and that makes sense. So again, it just reflects what I consider to be the consistently with a good economy.
Now, this is the other number that sellers want to know. This one's a little skewed, but we'll explain that once we get to it.
Right. So average days on market. So the definition of that would be the moment the house goes on the market live, right? Live on the MLS and all the internet sites, to when you get an accepted offer, i.e. accepted contract. That is the number of days on the market, and then it stops counting. However, the skewing is when it's not always marked properly in the MLS by the listing agent. In other words, they don't mark it that it has an accepted offer until maybe 2 weeks after the fact, for example. So then your numbers, obviously your dates are off a little bit.
Or in this case, have a negative number.
Or which let's not even talk about that. I can't even understand how that happens.
Negative 19 days.
So anyway, so again, it's a great stat. Sellers always want to know because they want to anticipate how they're going to move and their transition for moving. It's a great question. The reverse is the buyer. The buyer wants to know why houses took so long to sell if there's a problem. So, there's interest on both parties for different reasons.
So this basically tells you it's going to likely, if it's priced right and marketed
what
right, what to expect.
Yeah.
So somewhere between 2.5 to 3.5 months.
Absolutely. So statistically, in Black Rock, 2017, single family homes, average days on market, 73, about a little more than 2 months. 2018, we had 77 average days on market. And 2019, we had 108 days on market. Remember, more houses, lower prices.
But this number is a little off. There was that negative 19 number that was at the bottom, and there's 2 houses at the top that were in mid 500 range.
Meaning bid on for more than a year. Yeah. So they definitely skew the numbers. So, you take it for what it is. I just think, going in listing a house, you want to have a proper expectation for your own lifestyle. So, when to anticipate your move. And
yeah. So if you drop those 2 bottom numbers, the 2 top numbers, not a true median, but it brought it down to 94 days.
And that makes more sense. Okay. Which makes sense because again, more inventory too. So, okay. That was helpful.
That was helpful.
Well, taking away the ones that have the, high, year and a half plus days on. Okay. So we have some special houses we selected. And by that, I mean, we arbitrarily selected 3 homes. Or just maybe not. Hold on.
So before we get to that, the special homes, this is just showing you the slide that there's 10 houses that are active. Some of them are the higher priced homes. So the average came into about 832,000. There are 4 homes that are in show status. And show status is...
It means a signed and accepted offer.
And we have 1 house that is in deposit at an average. Well, it's not an average. It is the number, 125,000.
So deposit technically means there's a fully executed contract. Contract supersedes an accepted and signed offer. So thanks for the summary, George. I had it out of order on my side. Sorry.
I forgot to give you the copy on that slide.
All right. So now we can move on. So now we're done with stats. We can move on to 3 homes that we selected. And by the way, we check our stats the day of a podcast. So they're going to be as accurate as we possibly can be within 12 hours.
If something came on the market at after 10 a.m.
We're sorry.
We missed it.
We missed it. We're only human, doing our best. So 3 houses we selected that are currently active and or available on the market today. First house, 440 Hilltop Road. I think they had an open house today, actually.
They did have an open house, and this was kind of a special house in my high school and college years.
How was it special, George?
This was the Dr. Roach residence, and I was friendly with their daughter and sons. So this was kind of a hangout house in high school and college. Beautiful home.
Fun.
It's on Hilltop.
Okay.
It's right across from the chimneys. Currently, it is listed at 549,000.
5,200 square feet. It's got, let's see, 6 bedrooms and 6 baths. So quite a big house.
Yeah. Number 2 is 37 Thorn Place.
Currently asking price is $699,900.
And this house there's quite a bit of history in this house. It's pretty cool. So back in the day, this is late 1800s.
So you weren't alive yet?
No.
Okay.
This is the
Just older than
Victorian
me, so.
era.
Okay.
I don't look up the era. So Thorn Place. So the George Hotel, which was at or in the same spot that BlackRock Yacht Club was in, used to be the George Hotel, and 37 Thorn Place was one of the cottages that was involved in the George Hotel.
For the caretaker, was it? Or?
This was actually used for guests.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was one of the cottages. So kind of pretty cool history on that.
Well, it's big
house.
too. I would think it'd be,
Oh, it's a big house.
4,000 square feet.
I would say it's not a cottage, but it
No.
was considered a cottage for the George
Compared to
Hotel.
the hotel, I suppose. That's pretty awesome. That's remarkable to have that kind of history. And if you can't see, I don't know if you're listening or watching, but it's a Tudor type style home. So it's really has that older look anyway. So
Yeah, it's unique.
So 37, how do I say this? Eames?
Eames Boulevard.
I want to say Eames. Eames, 37 Eames Boulevard. Currently listed at $895,000. It's about 7,500 square feet. So it's a little bit big. 7 bedrooms and 7 bathrooms, 4 full baths, 3 halves. So this house is quite the history as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is, there was like 3 families that were kind of, I'm sure people are going to say there's definitely more, but it was the Pearsalls, the Thorns, obviously back to the Revolutionary days, you have the Brewsters, but this was one of the Pearsalls estate houses. This was built in 1908.
Oh, interesting. And of course, there's a Pearsall Place. Is it a place?
Correct.
Or,
Yeah, a lot of the
road
house-
named after.
a lot of the
Named
roads
after
and
the family.
streets.
Huh, interesting.
So that's definitely a cool property. Huge front lawn. We call it a football lawn.
Well, you're quite the historian, George. Thank you. Okay.
That took some research.
No, it's good. This is your thing. You're
Thanks
a historian.
to help to the Bridgeport Library and Diane Orello, who has which is a colleague, a real estate agent. She has a historic walking tour of BlackRock.
Oh, she does?
She does that she created on Google.
Ooh.
It is an amazing, the job she's done, the pinpoints of the houses in BlackRock, like the pinpoint of BlackRock Yacht Club showing the old George Hotel.
So if somebody wanted to do it, how would they?
Well, I would start with Google Maps and look up the BlackRock. We'll be posting the link to our YouTube channel as well.
Does she actually walk you, or she just highlights the points to walk?
It's on the Google map.
Okay.
There has been historic walking tours around BlackRock, but if you saw how many points of interest she has in her walking tours, probably 60 points of interest.
Oh, great. So, George, you can take me for a walk one day.
Yes.
Won't take us very long, right?
No, we'll just take
5 hours.
We'll take our car.
I might have to scooter. Let's get a scooter.
I don't know if walking's going to be my thing.
All right. So I think we'll take scooters.
BlackRock is hilly, very hilly.
Oh, come on. I like the physical challenge. Yeah. All right.
So this the fun-loving stats are done.
Yes,
so.
stats are done, but they're important, everybody. So hope you enjoyed it. Okay, let's talk about our industry focus.
Industry focus.
Home inspections.
Home inspections.
So a lot of times people, as you know, home inspection is part of your process when you purchase a house. However, I know it's going to be crazy, but what about before you list your house, before you sell your house? Do an inspection of your own house. What? I know, crazy. Think about it. You're proactively getting ahead of any problems and or situations that you weren't aware of, right?
And this would be even if you bought the house within the last 10 years, because things change.
Things change all the time.
Yeah.
10 years, 1 year. I mean, we all think we're savvy and knowledgeable of our own houses, but there's things you just wouldn't know because you're not looking for them or you're just not in tune with it. So
how many times you're on a ladder looking at your roof?
Yeah, right. Not very often until it's leaking. So it is a really good suggestion, and it's something that I suggest to my clients. It's something that if I were selling my house, I would I know I would do. There is, of course, a cost to you, but I feel that it's a small cost compared to what it could be down the road. So the key to doing this is before you list it, you do an inspection, you find out what the issues are, and you deal with it because you're now proactively handling any problems. The reverse of that would be if the buyer does the inspection and finds any sort of problematic or concerning issues, and now they're reacting to that, and there's stress and there's emotion. So, which could have been very solvable,
And, back my father would say, you got to concentrate on the bigger issues in a home inspection.
Right.
When I was buying houses and flipping houses, don't concentrate on the small things. So a lot of those small things you can knock off the list, I think is important
I think
for a home seller.
You're absolutely right, because sometimes I find that buyers sometimes get overwhelmed with the volume or the number of things when in fact a lot of them are probably minor
things.
Yeah.
We're going to get to the highlights, the ones you should be concentrating
Sure.
on.
So I think that's the message there. I think that it would behoove you to do it before you sell your own home. Do an inspection, understand what you're dealing with, and you really have two options. One is you fix and repair whatever issues you've been what's the word that you discovered, or you don't do anything but then you have to disclose it because now you're aware of whatever problems you did discover. So there's two ways to approach it.
Well, it would have to be in the disclosure documents either way.
If you're
whether you repaired it or not.
Right.
Correct?
So if you're aware of it and repaired it, either way, you're putting the disclosure, but they'll be happy to see you fix it. But if you're made aware of it and don't fix it, that's up to you. But you have to put the disclosure.
Absolutely.
So then it's maybe considered more of a sold as is type of situation.
And I think our friend from Fox Business News, Ron Nguyen, who is the author of this article, would agree that you are a outstanding realtor by recommending
thank you.
You got
it. Right. So this was we sourced this from Fox Business, and this is their business tip, if you will, is their suggestion is, be a smart homeowner, smart, going into the real estate, situation you're about to enter, get ahead of it and get in front of the problems.
Absolutely.
All right. So we also, so in typical home inspections, right? So we as realtors always say, and I'm an attorney's daughter, so I always say, use whoever you'd like. If you want a recommendation, I'm very happy to provide it because I don't want you to say, well, you told me to use so-and-so. And no, I'm always happy to make recommendations. You use whoever you like for your inspection. Of course, we urge you to use somebody that you think that you've maybe done some research on and or has some positive Google reviews. That's up to you.
And the rule of thumb generally of recommendation is give 2 or 3 recommendations to your clients.
Well, yes, it is. Yeah. I think that's something that's typical. Sometimes, honestly, depending on the request for whomever they're requesting, if I have one, I've got one. I'm only going to give people I can vouch for because who gets blamed at the end of the day? This girl. So the brains.
The brains.
So in the inspection process, obviously the big things, right? We talk about structure. We talk about the any infestation. Infestation would be any sort of any pests, normal pests.
Starting right off with the pests.
Oh, I love the pests. Come on, I've had bats. I've had rats.
I would have started with roofs, but you went pests.
I got a pest for you. Flying squirrels. Flying squirrels are one of the more difficult things to get rid of, by the way. And it's an issue.
Well, they're hard to catch.
They're hard to literally hard to catch. But no, flying squirrels are a problem, and they are definitely not one you want to encounter.
Do you run around with one of those big nets?
Yes. No.
No.
I am all hands on in these inspections, but I am no longer going up in those attics and doing. No, I'm good. I mean, if I'm needed, sure, but I'm hoping the other 3 guys can handle it.
And generally speaking, during a home inspection, the homeowner, whether it's the seller or the buyer, would be there. So
if we're representing the buyer and the homeowner would not be there.
I meant for a pre-inspection.
Sorry. Yeah. Pre-inspection. Yeah. So talk about pre-inspection. Yes. The homeowner is definitely there because they want to know firsthand about their house. Right. So whether it's that case or you're a buyer buying a house, you're there, your home inspector and whoever else he's brought along with him is going to be there, and they're going to look at everything. So we'll talk big structural, roof, obviously, any of the siding. They're going to talk about any of the outbuildings, if you will, or the out entry points, the deck, the patios, the out porches, the sheds, whatnot, garage. Your basement and your attic are sources of ventilation and seepage. So if you have issues where there is lack of ventilation in attic, that's a mold concern. If you have seepage and or too much coming into the basement, that's obviously a water concern. So these are things that they're going to look at. They're going to look at the grade of the property. You want your house to be obviously level, and you don't want to be at the basin of a sort of a large hill behind it.
Downhill. You don't want to be downhill.
Right. Because drainage is a big thing. And, I love to quote my inspectors and my guys, and they say things like, 99% of the problem with water in the basement is the gutters and leaders. And they're right. So if you have the gutters cleaned every year or twice a year, and you have the leaders, which are the extensions of the gutters, routing away from the house.
And those little snake things that run off towards the bottom of the leader.
Yep,
yes.
The gutters and the leaders. Those are the most critical points. And then if that can't be solved, then you deal with your basement water issue. But there's a lot of things you can do ahead of time. Again, going back to this pre-inspection, it's smart to do these pre-inspection things. And even if you're not selling your house, here's a crazy thought. Just do one, check out the house. I actually had my inspector look at my house, and needs to say the couple of things I wasn't aware of either. So we're not all perfect. Other major things, the mechanicals, obviously, that's easy. Look at the ages of things, and then you can sort of gauge that. There's always an estimated, lifespans of things. I've had furnaces, oil-fired furnaces that are 50 years old, and you know what? They're still going.
Still kicking.
The school of thought that I've always learned or was taught was you keep it, you service it till it dies, but not water heaters. Water heaters you get proactive with, right?
What I always loved is people saying, I have a hot water heater. No, you have a water heater.
That hopefully gets hot.
Yeah.
So water heaters you want to get ahead of, because that obviously is a spill or a leak you don't want to deal with. And the other major systems, the electrical, you have the plumbing. So these are the sort of basic core inspection points.
And the big ticket items inside the house, the kitchen, the bathrooms.
Right. But again, cosmetic, not what we're talking about. We're talking about function and functionality, and really for safety and environmental concerns. Those are things that should be brought up and presented to a seller, but cosmetic is on you.
Now you saw and list a lot of homes where there's wells, there's ledge, there's rock.
Right. So we're going to see additional tests. So you're after your typical, we'll consider general, they use the words general home inspection. You would do a radon test for gas. The radon gas, but there's also radon in the water. So you would also test the water. A lot of times the inspectors will ask, if it's women, if they're women that are about to enter the home or buy the home, if they're, pregnant and or to be pregnant, or there's small children, they would say they might consider, you might want to consider a water quality test. The septic inspection, depending on the type of sewage, if you're not sewer, you're septic, you have to have a septic inspection. Lead paint tests. I have never in my 21 years ever done a test for lead paint. However, every single transaction I have my client sign a disclosure saying he acknowledges that nobody knows anything about the house in terms of if there's lead paint, and he acknowledges he has the right to do a lead paint test. I've never ever done one, and I'm not saying it's good or bad. I just never have.
Now, have you come across asbestos? How often does it occur?
So asbestos is pretty common. And by no means do I minimize it, but asbestos is pretty easy to, if it's in a spot where you can get to it, you remove it and or professionally encapsulate it with a, whatever they're going to use. But it's not it's the when you can't get to it. That's the tricky part, right? Because asbestos is truly dangerous when it's frayed and gets into the air.
And a lot of times it's the older heating systems, right? And obviously older
we have
homes.
George, you and I have a mutual friend who has not to name him, but he has a spot where it's tricky to get to. And but that's on him. So that's his choice. Anyway, so I think just knowledge is important, and just you want to go in fully aware and understanding what you're getting involved in. That's all.
All right. So now that you're the buyer, you have your inspection, or you're about to get inspection. Go through the process.
Oh, okay.
And how we get to the inspection process, what happens after the inspection process?
Sure. So to get to the inspection process, obviously we've looked at the house. We've loved the house. The realtor representing the buyer has put forward a contract. The contract's been negotiated in terms of the price, the terms, et cetera. So all that stuff is in the contract and fully executed, signed by both the selling party and the buying party. And then you have your opportunity, the moment everything's signed, to then do your inspections.
And how often, like now, how soon would the inspection be and not too long?
Yep. So the way I do it, and again, every realtor is different. There's no right or wrong. Just want to cover my, you know what, there saying that. Each to their own. No,
Each to their own.
what I always say is within 10 calendar days of the signed contract or signed acceptance. So the moment the signature's on paper, you have 10 calendar days to get it done. However, I do urge my clients to do it quickly. So if there's room for additional evaluations or additional testing, we have time for it.
So generally 7-10 days.
Yeah, 7 to 10 days, basically, you want it all wrapped up. So we get it. So we get the inspection scheduled, and then we get to our inspection. We spend our 3-4 hours, hanging out with the inspector, and I'm always present at my inspections. So
now we get the report back,
Yep.
which usually takes 1 or 2 days from the inspector. Some of them now walk with iPads, and it's immediate depending on the inspection
which
company.
is awesome.
Yep.
That's and by no means we want to rush the inspector, but it's always helpful to have those things right away, because then we can start our negotiations, because out of respect for the seller and the listing agent, we want to give them information that supports our request. For example, in the report, if it's written that, let's see, we have evidence of a termite, damaged, sill plate or something, and then we can extrapolate that section from the inspection report and support it with our request for repair or credit or whatever. So yeah, you want the inspection report, and then you go back and forth with all of our requests, and then they make their responses.
So there's really 2 tracks here. You got the track where things on the inspection report came up and need to be repaired. If there's nothing major that came up and you didn't, as the buyer, were worried about those smaller items for repair, you just said to contract.
That's
at that point.
Right. And that doesn't happen often. I always find there's something, however, it does happen sometimes.
Sure.
And yes, you're right. You go right to an additional contract or an attorney generated contract, and then you proceed to getting your mortgage and proceed to closing.
Like a condo buy, a lot of times the inspection really comes up with nothing or nothing of significance.
Nothing that we usually can't hopefully stomach or handle.
So let's go the negative route.
Oh,
stuff came up.
I like to use the word challenging route, not negative. Challenging.
Let's go left. At least according to
the
flow chart.
Yeah, so let's go left. So the repairs needed. So again, I always like to have everything itemized and bullet pointed and nice and emailed to present to the seller of repairs that my client feels that are important to him or her. And not only to present the repair item, but present the solution. That's the key. So we don't just throw out these repairs. We present what we want done. Do we want a credit? Do we want them to actually repair it prior to closing by a licensed contractor? So be very specific. I find that communication in general has to be very specific in these type of requests. So the hope is that we go back and forth, we negotiate, everybody's happy, we've settled on what repairs and how the repairs will be addressed. Once that's addressed and completed, then it's sent to the attorneys, who then drafts an addendum to reflect exactly what we had come to terms on.
So the inspection contingency, and that includes the repairs needed in that period, is from...
It's still the same time frame, like the 10 days. So if I find that if I can't get our negotiations completed, we're still talking about the inspection come day 10, then I'm going to request an inspection contingency extension, just so we're not out of our timeline or out of our dates.
And it really doesn't mess up, generally speaking, the other timeline dates, the mortgage contingency, because that's in the background working.
That's absolutely correct, right? The mortgage is still in flow, closing date still attainable. It's just really allowing us more legal time to continue to negotiate, so we're all comfortable.
Negotiate and repairs.
Right. Yeah. And then the repairs just need to be done by closing. We don't need them done right away. But hopefully, very often times we always get to a point of agreement. It's very hard. It's not, more deals happen than not. In my experience, I'd be curious what other people think, other realtors, in their experience. But feel free to,
send us a comment.
Send us a comment. If I don't know how to tell you how to do
feel
that.
Feel free to call Erika directly.
Or feel free to call me. I'd be happy to chat about it. Hopefully live, we can figure that part out.
Because we will eventually go absolutely live or strictly live, where you're able to comment during this podcast.
Yeah, which would be fantastic because it's always good to hear other realtors' sort of perspective, other sellers, buyers,
But yeah, I mean,
opinions and thoughts.
Somebody could be typing in, I had bats in the belfry.
Yeah.
The cool thing about the program we're using, StreamYard, is we can send our comments in to our webcast, part of our podcast, so we can acknowledge them as a comment and talk to them on air. But we'll get there. Hopefully, maybe when we do Trumbull next.
Trumbull's our next one. Okay, so I think we've covered and explained pretty well the inspection process. So I think we're good there. And this chart, by the way, is fantastic. I love what you found.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job, looks.
So we're coming to the part of our podcast which we call the go-to two. In each town or city, in this case the neighborhood, we select hopefully one restaurant or coffee type of shop and
a boutique
store. This week, this episode, we have picked BRYAC, which will be our restaurant, and we have picked the Pious Bird. We're going to start off with BRYAC. BRYAC is located at 3074 Fairfield Avenue. It can be found at bryac.biz on the internet. It is owned by Mike Andre. He is born and raised right here in Black Rock. He's never left.
It's a friend of yours, right?
Yeah, he is.
Good.
A friend of mine.
Nice.
I think he just went to college. That's the only time. Roger Williams, a good school.
We're glad he came back. Okay.
So BRYAC has a lot going on. So they have the weekday happy hour. They have buck-a-shuck for oysters, 50-cent clams. That is weekdays 3 to 7. On Mondays, they have half off the entire raw bar. And they also do 50-cent BRYAC wings on Mondays. Tuesdays, incredible, half off their entire menu. And that's one of their busier nights.
Oh, I should go there.
Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday, they have lobster roll happy hour.
Let me just interject here. For anybody who knows George, lobster rolls are his thing.
No mayonnaise.
Oh,
if you have mayonnaise, you're out.
But he's obsessed with lobster rolls.
Yeah, so they have probably a top 2 hot buttered lobster roll for me. Includes French fries. That's $12 on Wednesday and Thursdays. BRYAC is not only renowned for its food, generally speaking, it is seafood. They have the basics, burgers, steaks, pastas, but it's well known for its seafood. On Wednesdays, Fridays through Sunday, they have live music bands. They're also one of the hippest, coolest joints to watch live bands.
Oh, and I was there for a bachelorette party. Bonka, if you're listening, I was there for your party a couple of years ago. I don't know when. They're having music this week, right?
Yeah, music this week.
What are they having?
So Wednesday, the January 29th, they have their house band, which is Alligator. Thursday, the 30th, they have the Gig Center. Friday, the 31st, they have Solar Plexus.
All right, so now you know what to do this coming week.
Little BRYAC insider.
I like it.
When it rains or snows, $5 dark and stormy pints.
I'm in.
So even if it's sprinkling, $5.
Really? No one's going to challenge you on sprinkling?
Even if it's flurrying, $5.
I like it. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Thanks, Mike. So next we have the Pious Bird.
Oh, Pious Bird. So I just purchased. Now I'm wearing the ring now. It's supposed to make me feel emotionally grounded and sane and happy.
I'll go with grounded.
Grounded.
I'll stick with grounded.
Yeah. So I'm wearing the ring. I think it's personally been working. I don't know if George agrees, but anyway, the Pious Bird is great. It's a boutique store. Desiree Witt, who owns it. I don't know if she's a local person. I feel that she might.
She moved to Black Rock.
Yep. Okay. So she's great. So we had the pleasure of talking with her the other day, and the store has some great stuff. They have Swedish dishcloths. Now, I have a Swedish heritage, and if anybody knows that, I make sure I always tell people that they are aware of my Swedish heritage. So for Christmas, I got the nicest gift from my friend, and it was Swedish dishcloths. And I have to say, that's the kind of thing that's pretty cool because you don't get that kind of stuff around here. So that was pretty awesome. Of course, incredibly high quality.
And they can be found at piousbird.com.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. And the address, 2960 Fairfield Avenue.
So how did they get this Pious Bird name?
Well,
Desiree told us a pretty cool
She
story.
did tell us a story. I sort of half heard it, but it's from is that from the poem?
Poem.
Okay. So the poem, The Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it.
Who
Don't be afraid to say it.
Well, I don't know if I'm totally correct on my facts here, but don't worry, George will correct me. Samuel Taylor Coleridge.
Close
Coleridge.
enough. Coleridge.
Samuel Taylor Coleridge wrote the poem, and it really was about an albatross bird. This poor thing.
Following.
So he led these sailors out of harm's way, and then they ultimately kill him. So, but there's a pious bird involved, and that's where I missed it.
It's a pious bird of good omen. It was actually never in the poem. It was kind of an author's footnote. It was called a gloss. It was in the margin of the poem.
Okay.
So it was the pious bird of good omen.
Not the albatross, the pious bird. Okay.
Bird of good omen.
Good to know. Well, and there you have it.
And there you have it. So tell us about Pious Bird.
So it's an eclectic curated collection that ranges from vintage furniture and accessories. So we were there. They had a lot of antiques. They had a lot of cool jewelry, a lot of cool, like, hope I don't want to do disservice to Desiree, but these cool rocks. I personally bought one for another emotionally grounding rock. There might be a theme here to my
We got a theme, definitely.
I'm totally fine and totally sane, normal. Do not fret. A lot of crystals. They do events there. They have, 3 events coming up. On January 31st, they have a class for intro to tarot reading. They have a tarot reading on February 7th.
And that's $50 for a half hour.
But with Sally Russo, apparently she's quite well known. I think I need to go to that. You should probably go too, but that's we'll talk about that later. Okay. February 23rd, another class offered Intro to Reiki. I had Reiki done once. I liked it. But anyway, it's a class on Reiki. Might be interesting.
And what is Reiki?
Well,
this is one I had to look up.
Yeah. It's a Japanese technique for stress reduction and relaxation. I can't really speak too much about it because I had it done years ago, but
that's another class.
Another class offered, February 23rd.
It's kind of an introduction, let you know what the philosophy is behind.
Yeah, there's a lot of self-reflection, a lot of emotion, a lot of not holistic, but a lot of spiritual healing. Themed involvement, I think, with this store. So, but Desiree's great. The woman that owns it, she's fabulous. Very nice. A lot of really neat stuff. So if you need like a house gift, they had a lot of Bridgeport type of gift. BlackRock specifically, and some Bridgeport in general. And we as realtors always looking for really cool closing gifts. That was some
and she sources a lot from artisans who live not only in BlackRock but in Connecticut,
in general, local, right? Like I think this, going back to the Swedish dishcloths, for example, it's a family that lives in Greenwich. They're called 3 Bluebirds, I think. But anyway, so that's always nice when a store tries to support local artisans. So definitely check her store out. It's great, and guaranteed you'll find something that appeals to you. So
if you want to sign up for those events, the Intro to Tarot, the tarot readings, or the Intro to Reiki, that is, see her website, Desiree Witt's website at piousbird.com.
All right. Awesome. Okay.
All right. And now we talk about the events going on and around us, not necessarily specifically to BlackRock, but cool things coming up in the next few weeks that you should go check out.
Right. So despite the fact that it's January, February, and the dead of winter in Connecticut, we've got a lot going on. Now, my personal favorite, anybody who knows me, I love the Beardsley Zoo. They already had this event, but I have to mention it because it's an example.
So you're going to talk about a past event?
Well, yeah, it's a past event, but it's important for you to understand the kind of events they have here. So
Christmas was really great at the Beardsley Zoo.
All right, there. It wasn't exactly that, but actually it was yesterday, the 25th. So they had a birthday party for their 2 immoral leopards. Callisto and Orion. Callisto. I've met them both. I go to the zoo a lot. Orion. But anyway, they had a birthday party there yesterday for it, and like you had I think they had complimentary birthday cake, and
but they're 1 year old.
Yeah, but it's cool.
I'm saying they were 1.
Have you seen them? Have you gone? You should probably go. Good for you to expand your horizons.
But more leopards. Cubs.
But the zoo does a lot of events, so for all types of ages for kids. So I'm a big fan of our local Beardsley Zoo. So you should check it out. All right, February 1st, the 60s show at the Richfield Playhouse at 8:30 p.m. In Stanford on February 7th, we have BB King Blues Band at the Palace Theater.
That's going to be a cool one.
That's going to be awesome. And then, here local in Bridgeport, February 8th, The Magic of Broadway. So a bunch of Broadway sort of, I think, medleys down at the Klein, where I used to have my dance recitals as a young person many years ago. The Klein Memorial in Bridgeport. February 10th, this I thought was actually really neat. February 10th at 3:30 at the Fairfield University, having a Japanese tea ceremony.
Huh.
I should do that.
I wonder what happens there besides
I read books.
tea drinking.
I don't know. Well, it's a whole, it's a
ceremony.
It's a process.
It's in the name, ceremony.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like I don't know that you should go. It's probably you have to be very quiet.
Yeah. If I have to sit on the ground, I'll never get up.
You'll never get up. So you should probably not attend it. I'll attend it for us and get back to you.
So over at the Chelsea Piers in Stanford on January 17th, you have the home show. Check that out. You also have coming up at the Webster Bank Arena, the Harlem Globetrotters on February 21st. And kind of a shout out back to BRYAC would be February 22nd, BRYAC's annual Louisiana crawfish boil. So
good.
Check out the Facebook page of BRYAC BlackRock on Facebook, or bryac.biz.
And we'll post these
on the internet.
We'll post these events too on our site, right?
Yeah, we'll put them.
George will post them.
Well, the events and the links to the events on our YouTube page and over at our Facebook at Her Brains His Looks page on Facebook. So what else? That's it for the events going on. We'll be so next week we're heading over to up the mountain.
Yep. Out into the country, going to Trumbull. So we're going to focus on Trumbull and feature Trumbull and some of the cool things it offers.
Went from my town to your town.
That's exactly right. Don't tell people where we live. It's be private.
Oh, I live in Black Rock.
I live in Trumbull. So, but yeah, so next time we'll be in Trumbull. We are excited about this podcast. We're going to do a different town every time. And we welcome input, welcome guests, welcome feedback.
The flow will get more flowy.
It's fantastic.
I don't know, got a little nerves going.
I know. I feel fantastic. So
my nerves basically had to do with, technology is. Seems to.
I don't help George at all with the
give
technology.
Us a hiccup.
Let's just be clear, though. I literally don't do any of the technology.
I got a lot to do. I got slideshows.
I just have to look at you and talk. My job is great. All right. So George and I both work here at William Pitt Sotheby's in Southport. We are full-time realtors, just FYI who we are as people. But we welcome, again, any feedback, any input. What's our email address? Oh, I know. herbrainshislooks@gmail.com. Feel free to email us. We have a phone number too, don't we?
We do.
Does it work yet?
It's in the coming online mode.
Oh, okay. Doesn't work yet.
Because you were supposed to write it down. It actually works.
Oh, I don't even know what the number is. Okay.
414-1534. Hit the call us button on our Facebook page. We also can be found on Instagram and Twitter at Her Brains His Looks.
All right. So I think we're good.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap for episode 1, our feature, Black Rock, Connecticut. I am George E. O'Connell,
and
the looks.
I am Erika Portanova Songer, the brains.
Thank God I didn't have to say her name.
Welcome to the opinions, beliefs, and viewpoints expressed by the podcast hosts and their guests are theirs solely. The information shared has been professionally sourced and disseminated through the resources provided by the sponsoring real estate brokerage and their real estate experiences.
Thank you, Adrian Blackman, for our intro and our disclaimer. We appreciate it. Everyone, have a great week. See you next week.
Goodbye.